Alright. Hari tu dah habis ke? Iza, kalau macam tu pergi McD terus, tak payah beli Arai Burger. Kalau macam tu pergi McD terus, tak payah beli Arai Burger. Nanti tengok ah.
Hello, Assalamualaikum. Very good afternoon to everyone. How are you all today?
Good doctor.
How are you? Good? Not good?
Doctor.
Good
Good.
doctor.
Good, doctor. Okay. So how about our mobility students? You guys okay?
Yeah, good doctor.
Good doctor.
Yeah. It's not too hot in Malaysia.
No, that's okay. For now, that's okay. We used to now.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, hopefully you enjoy our country, the weather.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah, very hot actually,
Very hot.
and very humid, right? Okay. All right. So today we're going to continue from our previous lecture on nutritional adaptation, homeostasis. We talk about how to maintain our body temperature, the glucose homeostasis, and so on, right? So we're going to continue on. Your friends. Okay. So today we're going to continue on how our body controls water level. You all know that water is very vital for all living system. Our body, we require a lot of water in our body, actually, body fluids and so on, not for human, for plants and other organism as well, and very small type of organism that can survive without water for a very long time. In general, most of us, living system need water. Your friends that to join. Change to slideshow. All right. How our body control water levels. By understanding the importance of water regulation in the body, we need to, understand. We need to know why it is very important, very vital for us, not only for us, for other living system as well, to maintain the water. Okay, especially for us as a human, we need to regulate the water level in our body. It is very important physiological process because it helps in to sustain proper function of the body system, the system of our body, all the biological process that happens in our body. Blood plasma, you know, predominantly composed of water. Water is the main component of our blood plasma. So that only that can say how important is the water to our body, right? And that function as a solvent and carrier medium for all nutrient of the body. So, and for cellular component of the immune system. So basically everything that the process in our body requires water. Our blood plasma is the carrier medium for oxygen, which is very important again, and carbon dioxide molecule that travel in the blood bound to hemoglobin molecules to and from the lungs. We take oxygen, we exhale carbon dioxide. How do our body do this process? By carrying all these compound, all these gases in the blood, and the blood contains water. Hormones of the endocrine system function appropriately due to the existence of water as a carrier medium of the blood plasma. So altogether, it's all about um, the water, the function of water as the main component of our blood plasma. So how much do we need? How much do we need water daily? Depends on whether an adults, the age. Some experts believe everyone should drink about 80 ounce a day. 80 ounce, can someone convert 80 ounce? For me, I think it's about 2 liters a day. Others say divide your body weight by 2 to get the ounces you need to drink a day. So, for example, a man with 175 pounds, 175 pounds, around um, 85, 85 to 90 kilogram. So, how much water should he drink? About 88 ounce. 88 ounce is quite high actually. So, but this is more or less the guidelines on how much the volume of water that we need every day in order for our body, or the process of our body the process to undergo the biological process to undergo properly without any problem. Overweight people should add additional of 12 ounce for every 25 pounds they are overweight. So how to the maintenance of correct water balance, which is the net difference between water gain and water losses, is essential to good health. We have to balance. If you, for example, do a lot of physical exercise, very intense exercise, you know that by doing that type of exercise, you're going to lose lots of water, right? So you need to balance it. You need to drink lots of water. So how do you can lose water? Through respiratory tract, by breathing, gastrointestinal tract, feces, for example, the skin, perspiration and sweating, and through kidney by urine excretion. So this is the main process that can lose the water from our body. And then we gain daily water through fluids and food intake, and metabolic water production mainly through food nutrient utilization by the body, about 0.3 liter per day on average. So all of these on the left box here, the activity, the action that can make us lose water, and we need to counter by drinking more water. Especially now, most of us are Muslim. We are fasting. Now it's only 2:15 in the afternoon. We have another 5 hours more before we can eat or drink. So at the moment, our water level is quite low. Now try to minimize physical activities. Don't maybe you can reduce your activity and not get too active. Otherwise, you can easily get dehydrated. So the balance of the homeostasis of water level we call osmoregulation. Osmoregulation is the regulation of water concentration or water level in bloodstream. This effectively controlling the amount of water available for cells to absorb. So whatever water that you have in your blood, that will be depends on the level of water that can be absorbed by the cell. I'm sorry, that's vice versa, the other way around. The amount of water that can be absorbed by the cell depends on the availability of water in the bloodstream. First, the kidney, one of the most important organ for osmoregulation is our kidneys. Kidney is also known as a natural filter of the blood. We know that it filters something and reabsorbs something, remove water soluble wastes, which are diverted to the bladder. So everything will go to the kidney, and the kidney will separate them, whether it's going to be excreted or reabsorbed. Depends on our body needs. Kidney also serve as homeostatic function, such as regulation of electrolytes, sodium, potassium, chloride, magnesium, calcium, and so on. Not only limited to this. Maintenance of acid-base balance, by regulate the level of these electrolytes. Kidney also helps to maintain the acid-base balance. By maintaining the acid-base balance, kidney can also maintain the pH of our blood and also regulate the blood pressure by maintaining salt and water balance. So all of these can leading to the proper level of our pH and the level of our blood pressure. Kidneys produce urine, which is excrete waste such as urea and ammonium. Our body does not need this urea and ammonium, so that's why the kidneys will help us to excrete these two things here, two components here. And kidney also helps in reabsorption of water, glucose, as well as amino acid. Kidney produce hormones including calcitriol or 1,25-dihydroxyvitamin D3, erythropoietin, or also called type of glycoprotein hormone that controls erythropoiesis or red blood cell production, and other enzymes such as renin. So not only kidneys, maintains the homeostasis for electrolytes, produce urine, the absorption of some soluble material. Also, it also produce enzyme and hormones that very important to our body. So that's why we need to take care of our kidney properly. So how are we going to how can we take care of our kidney? By drinking lots of water, reduce our salt intake, reduce our sugar intake, and so on. So this is how the kidneys looks like. The nephron looks like. The capillaries, arterial venous, renal vein, artery vein, the pyramid, renal pyramid, and the nephron, medulla, ureter, cortex. So the most important part of the kidney is the nephron. If you see, the zoom picture here, the nephron or renal pyramid. So here, this part here, which is called renal pyramid, and inside the renal pyramid, there's we call it nephron. So nephron. That's why when someone got a problem with the kidney, they call diabetic nephropathy because of nephron being damaged because of the diabetic, diabetic mellitus, type 2 diabetes can damage this nephron here, because this nephron here responsible, for the reabsorption, excretion, and producing urea and ammonium and so on. So that's why we need to take care of our kidney, especially this part here, the nephron, the renal pyramid. So this is the upper part here called cortex and the lower called medulla. So we zoom on the nephron here, and then this is how it looks like. Proximal convoluted tubule, efferent arteriole, glomerulus here, Bowman capsule, efferent arteriole, loop of Henle, vasa recta, collecting duct, distal convoluted tubule. So all of these area here have their specific function, so which we are going to see after this. So the nephron is the functional unit of the kidney, the most important part of the kidney. It's the nephron. Glomerulus and convoluted tubules are located in the kidney cortex. Here, kidney cortex here on the upper part here, kidney cortex, which contains glomerulus and convoluted tubules. Glomerulus and convoluted tubules. This part here is on the upper part of the nephron, and the rest is the medullary part. Collecting ducts. Here, the collecting duct are located in the pyramid of the medulla. This collecting duct here, pyramid of the medulla. So, the homeostasis control of water. Osmoreceptor in the hypothalamus are capable of detecting water concentration. So, first, the hypothalamus will be the first site that detect the water concentration, and then the hypothalamus communicates directly with the posterior pituitary gland. An increase in osmolality or electrolyte water balance, we call osmolality, causes the pituitary gland to secrete antidiuretic hormone, or short form ADH. ADH is the hormones that is secreted by the pituitary gland, which targets the kidney for maintaining water level. These hormones here is the type of hormones that are responsible to help the kidney to maintain the water level. So how this hormone can do that? By altering the tubules of the kidney to become more or less permeable to water. It depends, it depends whether we need more water, or we need to we need to hold the water, or we need to excrete the water from our body. So it depends on what's the preference of our body. So this ADH, antidiuretic hormone, will the action of antidiuretic hormone will depends on this. So if more water is required in the blood, so meaning that we need water, our blood needs water. So if more water is required in the blood, high concentration of ADH make tubules more permeable. Okay, so meaning that our blood needs water, so the pituitary gland will increase the ADH secretion. So high ADH will be secreted by the pituitary gland. So this high amount or high concentration of ADH will make the tubule more permeable. So the more waters will be in the blood. So how about if less water is required in the blood? Again, so low concentration, opposite action. So low concentration of ADH will make tubules less permeable. So control the water volume in the body. So it depends on the ADH concentration. If the water is required in the blood, so the pituitary gland will secrete high concentration of ADH, while if less water is required in the blood, the pituitary gland will secrete low amount of ADH. So ADH stimulates the formation of water channel proteins, or called aquaporins, in the collecting duct. The collecting ducts, the very straight part of the nephron, um, it's the collecting duct. So ADH stimulates formation of water channel aquaporins in the collecting ducts of the nephrons, permit water pass from the urine into tubule cells onto the blood. Okay. So meaning that, so normally when our body doesn't need too much water, we just let the water in the urine get excreted. But if the blood needs water, okay, so this ADH increase the pituitary gland will secrete a high amount of ADH. High concentration of ADH will stimulate the formation of water channel called aquaporins in the collecting duct. So these aquaporins will allow the water pass from the urine into the tubules and is transported into the blood, right? So by doing this, will the body or the kidney will limit the water that's going to excreted with the urine. And then the next hormone is aldosterone. Aldosterone functions by increasing the reabsorption of sodium and chloride ion. So these two ions here, it depends on our body needs again. So causing more water to move into the blood via osmosis. So we know what is osmosis, right? The high concentration of solids, the water will move depends on towards the high concentration of solids. So when again, one of the things that our body can do by first stimulate high amount of ADH, and the next is by producing aldosterone. So aldosterone increase the reabsorption of sodium and chloride. So when high amount of sodium and chloride being reabsorbed into our blood, so meaning that high concentration of this ion in our blood. So because of this, the water will move into the blood via osmosis. So the hormones ADH and aldosterone both increase the reabsorption of water until almost 100% of water filtered by the nephron is reabsorbed into the blood. Okay, so without these two hormones here, the water will just going to get removed by our body in the urine, in the urea and ammonia. So in order to maintain the water level in our blood, our body will secrete or will produce these two type of hormones here, ADH and aldosterone. So meaning that, so these two hormones responsible for the reabsorption of water from the nephron into the blood. Next, water reabsorption leads to very concentrated urine. That's why nowadays you can see we are Muslim people. When we fasting, we know that our body our kidney try to minimize, try to limit the water that's going to get passed through via urination. So that's why the urine during fasting, our urine will be very concentrated, because the kidney reabsorb the water, because our blood needs the water, and our blood our blood needs the water, and then the cells in our body also needs the water. So the cell get the water from the blood get the water from the absorption in the kidney nephron. In situation where there is too much water present in the blood, so we've done the part, we already discussed the part where our body needs the water. Now let's move on to what if we have too much water in our blood. So we need to excrete some of the water to balance the homeostasis or control of the water, right? So the heart secretes the hormone of ANP, atrial natriuretic peptide, ANP. So this hormone is secreted by the heart. So once these hormones being secreted, this increase the excretion of sodium and chloride ion, so meaning that we don't ask the kidney to reabsorb this solute here. We just tell the kidney, okay, you just remove this from our body because we want to remove some of the water because we have too much water. So increased concentration of sodium and chloride ion in urine draws water into urine via osmosis. The same things happen when high concentration of this sodium and chloride ion in our blood, the water will move to the blood. When high concentration of this sodium and chloride ion in the urine, the water will move to the urine. This is all about the osmosis process. So increasing the volume of urine produced. So you can see here, the first part here, filtration, reabsorption, number one, filtration. So this part here first will filter all those things that comes into this area here, the Bowman capsule here, glomerular capillary, the Bowman capsule, everything will get filtered, And then number two, reabsorption. If our body needs, for example, the water or sodium or chloride ion, this part here will reabsorb all those things that we need that needed by our body. And if our body doesn't need that, it's just going to secrete by secretion process, number three here. And finally, excretion by urinary excretion, number four here. And all those that have that being reabsorbed will move to renal vein and into our blood, into the blood. Okay, let's see the kidney function first, filtration. Glomerular capillary, so where the blood enters the tubule area in the capillary here, inside the Bowman capsule here. The capillary form a small knot near the kidney tubule. The blood is filtered, so all the small particles go into the tubule. Right? So, and the rest, and then after get filtered, the blood will move to the vein and to the blood system again. The kidney tubule now contains lots of blood components, including glucose, ions, water, and urea. So there will be lots of glucose, lots of iron, lots of water, as well as urea. Now imagine this is in the kidney tubule, okay? And next, now our body will decide whether to reabsorb or not. So number two, the function number two of the kidney is to reabsorb sugars. So if our body, lack of sugars in our blood, low glucose in our blood, we need to absorb the glucose. So the body needs to have sugar in the blood for cells to use in respiration, for the brain. All the sugar is reabsorbed back into the capillary depending on the requirement. Now, especially now in our body, for fasting Muslim, people, now our kidney try to reabsorb as much as sugar, as much as water that are available. So now absorb the sugar. Now the sugar and the water and some ions already in the blood. Okay. So water and ions are the next to be reabsorbed. First the sugar, next the water and ions. It depends on how much is needed by the body. And what's left here? The urea and ammonia. The absorption of water. If you have too little water in your blood, you will produce very concentrated urine. So this means that very little water in it. If you have too much water in your blood, you will produce very dilute urine. So lots of water in your urine, in the urine. So number 4, urine excrete the waste. Everything that is left, our body or the kidney already reabsorbed the most important things that the body needs, and then what's left here is waste, the urea and excess water. This waste is called urine. This is what's going to be in the urine. It is excreted via ureter and is stored in the bladder, excreted out through urethra. So first, you know, this here will excreted via ureter. Ureter go down and stored in the bladder, and then after, when the time comes, excreted through urethra. And the blood, clean blood leaves the kidney in the renal vein to the blood system, our blood system, and the urethra, bladder, and urethra for the waste. All right, secretion and reabsorption of various solids throughout the nephron. Properties of the cells that line the nephron change dramatically along its length. Consequently, each segment of the nephron has highly specialized function. Okay, for example, here, this part here, for urea is uric acid, creatinine, some drugs, ammonia, hydrogen. This part here for glucose and vitamin, lactate, amino acids. It depends on the part of the nephron. It has specialized um, function. Right, to summarize the hormone responsible for the hemostatic control of water, this table here, you can read the first one, ADH, also known as vasopressin. So you need to know the production site of this ADH. Where does it produce? From hypothalamus in the form of pre-prohormone precursor, but it's stored in vesicle at the posterior pituitary. So ADH produced in hypothalamus, stored in the posterior pituitary, and how this is stimulated by the level of blood volume. Okay, so what's the function of ADH? Increase blood volume, water reabsorption. All right, so if we don't need to increase the water reabsorption, ADH production will be reduced. Okay, so the most important function of ADH is to increase blood volume. And next, angiotensin 2. Angiotensin 2 produced in the liver, activated by renin and angiotensin converting enzyme. So first, when it gets produced, it's not activated yet. So we need renin to activate this hormone here into the active form. Angiotensin 2 stimulated the production of angiotensin 2 is stimulated when the decreased blood volume. Similarly with ADH. So what happened when blood volume is decreased? The liver produces angiotensin 2. Angiotensin 2 will increase reabsorption of sodium and chloride in the proximal tubule. So again, osmosis. When the blood amount, the concentration of sodium in the blood is decreased, water also will be absorbed. And then the hormone number three, aldosterone. Production site of this aldosterone is in heart. These hormones, stimulated in response to high level of sodium in the blood or increased blood pressure. When we have too much salt, sodium chloride in our blood, it can increase the blood pressure. So we have to remove these things. We don't want to have this too much salts in our blood. We don't want to have increased our blood pressure. So how are we going to correct this? Our body will produce ANP from our cardiac muscle cells in the heart. So this ANP increase the filtration. So more blood plasma is forced into the glomerular capsule. So more blood will go into the capsule, in order to get filtrated. So by doing this, it will remove some solutes, sodium, chloride, and so on, making loop of Henle less efficient in reabsorbing water and iron from the filtrate. So more sodium and water being excreted into urine, blood volume decrease and blood pressure decreases. This is how our body maintaining our blood pressure. So the role of kidney in glucose homeostasis, a new path toward normalizing glycemia. And this mechanism becomes, we call it, how to control, one way of controlling the blood sugar level in the patient of type 2 diabetes. So this mechanism becomes maladaptive in diabetic because, however, as hyperglycemia augments the expression and activity of sodium glucose co-transporter SGL2. SGL2 is the protein that responsible to reabsorb sugar in the kidney. So in the cells in our for example in our muscle cell, the protein that responsible to take the glucose from the blood into the cells, we call it GLUT4, GLUT4. GLUT4 is in the muscle, and then SGLT2 in the kidney. So this glucose transport system in the kidney, SGLT2. As a result, glucose reabsorption may increase by as much as 20% in individuals with fully controlled diabetes. SGLT2 is a low affinity, high capacity glucose transport protein that reabsorb 90% of filtered glucose. So SGL2 is the protein that is responsible to reabsorb almost 90% of the filtered glucose. If our body really needs glucose, for example, as we speak now, because I'm fasting, SGLT2 in my kidney try to reabsorb 90% of the filtered glucose because my blood glucose now, because I cannot eat, is low. So the SGLT2 protein here reabsorb 90% of the filtered glucose and try to not remove the glucose from my body at the moment. So the problem is for the diabetic patient. Diabetic patient, they don't want this protein here to reabsorb glucose because they want to remove the glucose from their body because they have too much glucose in their blood, right? So nowadays, scientists try to to produce drugs to produce drugs that can inhibit this SGLT2 for the treatment of diabetes. So by inhibit this SGLT2, sodium glucose co-transporter 2, when we inhibit this, meaning that our kidney will not reabsorb glucose. So this is good for diabetic patient. For the normal patient, glucose, so they want to remove, they don't want to reabsorb. So that's why they need to inhibit this type of protein here. All right, same thing that I just mentioned. All right, that's it for our homeostasis topic. We have learned today about on how our body controls water level, osmoregulation. We comes into the picture the kidney, the nephron, the main part of the kidney that responsible to excrete or reabsorb, or uh, the material from our body, such as water, sugar, and so on, and ions, and then how the kidney works, okay, and how to maintain, the blood pressure. What else that we learn? And what type of hormones? There are three types of hormone in the kidney that responsible to increase the water absorption, and only one hormone, which is ANP, that responsible to excrete the sodium chloride and water from our body. I hope that's not too much for you to understand, for you to memorize. Only four types of hormone: ADH, angiotensin 2, and aldosterone. All these three hormones responsible to increase your blood volume, and on the ANP to decrease the blood volume and maintaining the blood pressure. All right. So, any question before we stop? No question. And are you guys ready for tomorrow? The first test? Dah ready ke for tomorrow?
No, yes.
Sorry? Apa tu? Tidak. Why not? Why tidak? Saya dah remind since last week kan? 9 to 11 pening kepala, banyak baca dana. Banyak baca for nutritional this course, or you have other exam, other subjects as well. I think that's not too much because only 3 topics, right? I hope that's not too much. Very basic.
Doktor nak tahu contoh soalan?
Boleh bagi contoh soalan. Satu contoh soalan. Saya ni kalau orang tanya saya kesian sikit lah. Ini tak boleh. So
Tips doktor, tips. Macam ada essay ke?
the objective will be very easy. Okay. Trust me, very, very easy. I don't know. Normally, I do second test. Normally I do second test, 4 topics from second test, but this semester I have to, I have to take over the first part, which is the first test. Sekejap ya. Apa Guys, nak beritahu. Dia beritahu.
Doctor,
Yes.
this will be online tomorrow morning. That's
Yeah,
right.
Putra Blast. Yeah, do you have access to your Putra Blast account?
Yeah.
Both of you, right?
Yes.
Both of you. Okay, that's good. So you just go to your Putra Blast, you click on the Nutritional Biochemistry course, DTH 4305, and then you will see first test there, and then you just click the link, and then you just answer the question. All right, just a second, let me check. Punya test I forgot the type of question. Okay, just a second, let me check. I know this. You need to know, the active form of the vitamin that we already discussed. Vitamin B, what's the active form? For example, what happens when you have lack of vitamin, for example, vitamin B, vitamin C, for example, right? And about the minerals, you need to know, about the minerals. What's the function of minerals for our bones, for example? The most minerals, the most important minerals for our bones, the most abundant minerals in our body, for example. What else? The minerals that we can get from our diet, for example, in table salt or soy sauce. Um, apa lagi, the deficiency of minerals that can have the kind of symptom like diabetic. Banyak saya beritahu ni, macam bagi tahu free je ni. And the function of the minerals, fresh minerals, for diabetic, for pregnancy. Most common minerals for most important minerals in pregnancy, in to regulate water, minerals that very important to prevent mental and physical retardation for babies. Minerals that considered as a cofactor for enzymatic reaction. Kalau tak dapat mak, tak tahulah saya dah bagi free. And okay, essay about some of the vitamin, how do what's the process of converting the vitamin from inactive form to active form. I'm not going to give you what type of vitamin. It's not going to be fair because it's going to be in the test. So you have to prepare, some of vitamin you need to convert it from inactive form, vitamin, provitamin, pre-vitamin into the most active form. You need to know the mechanism of how our body convert this type of vitamin to its active form. There's quite a number of vitamin, right? Some of the vitamin is already readily used by our body in its in the initial stage of the vitamin, and some of the vitamins need to be converted first in order for our body to use it. Okay, make sure you know what type of vitamin is that. And what else? Yeah. So some vitamins, some active form of vitamin are required to produce some molecules, certain molecules. What vitamin is that? You should know more or less. Deficiency of the vitamin, toxicity of that vitamin. I think that's all. I hope that all of you can answer the test tomorrow. There's no more. I cannot, I cannot give you more clue. Otherwise, it's not going to be fair. No, one essay, 10 marks. That, okay, I give you one more hint. One essay about how your body convert this vitamin from inactive to active form, that's going to be 10 marks. 10 mark essay. Station B, and station 8, there will be about 30 marks.
Tolong bagi tahu. Tak ada internet. Banyak juga doktor bagi tips. Nanti share aja. Nanti tengok dalam link lah sebab saya pun tak sempat semua.